further ado, let's get started. And as always, for those of you that are here as guests, feel free to use the chat, interrupt, celebrate the messages that you're hearing, and know that you are the most important piece of this work. So really quickly, welcome to April Heart to Heart. We are really lucky and excited to be doing this work with you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll move through the slide deck as a way of just sort of keeping us moving and keeping us organized. But as always, interrupt, make this your own, make this special and unique. So here we go, sharing my screen. All right, everyone. All right, welcome to the April Heart to Heart. And I think I just want to make sure I don't mess that up. And our work today is going to be just some quick introductions and talking to you about some of our always on resources that we make available to you, that we're continually adding to and adapting and trying to make better. And for those of you that are contributing to some of that material, we are forever thankful. And then the ed specialists will each go down a list and talk about some of the projects that we've come across and realized over the past month. And hopefully that will inspire you and create some really rich conversation to wrap this all up with. And those of you that are here as guests, if you want to speak out and talk, we would really welcome that as well. I'm Audrey O'Clair. My pronouns are she and her. I'm an education specialist with Soundtrap, and I love to talk about special education, early childhood education, and specifically, I get really excited when I get to talk about the transcription tool.
Hey there, everyone. I'm Jess Kurtz. Nice to see you or nice to meet you, depending if you're a returning friend or a new friend. So glad you're here with us. I'm also on the Ed Specialist team, and my joy points, or sort of my passion points in intersection with Soundtrap, comes with dual language and multiculturalism and studio connections, and where can we see the fine arts and language overlap. So that's sort of where I get excited to share and brainstorm and think with you. So looking forward to chatting more with you today.
Hey everybody, can you all hear me? Good. Yep, good. Okay, hey everybody, I'm Justin. I'm one of the education specialists as well, located in Los Angeles. I'm excited to see, like I said, some new faces and also, some familiar faces as well. My specialties, my passions is in storytelling and figuring out like how culture and music can really tie together to produce different narratives. So excited to share with you all and to learn more today as well.
Hey everyone, I'm Taylor, education specialist as well. I'm in Austin, Texas. My background is in music and music education. So I was teaching percussion in the Dallas area for a couple of years, and then here in the Austin area for a couple of years before I found Soundtrap and made a big shift, and was, obviously very excited about the possibilities. So that's what I'm doing these days, especially focusing on music.
Hey everyone, I'm Serena. My pronouns are she, her. I was a former music educator in New York City, and so I'm now an engagement specialist. So my passion lies in music and tech integration.
I guess this is something I could introduce. So in case you have made it this far and have never heard of our educator courses or don't know about the new ones, we have a free certified educator program. We're up to 3 levels now. So level 1 is obviously the basics, level 2 is a little more, and level 3 is a little more than that, kind of the more advanced features, so that by the time you finish level 1, you should be able to do most important things in Soundtrap, and by the time you finish level 3, you should be able to do pretty much everything in Soundtrap. Those are free. You can click this link. I think we'll send this deck out later, or you can just do a Google search and you'll find it pretty easy. I also have a YouTube version for students. So if you want to let students go through the same course, go to the Soundtrap for Education YouTube channel. There's playlists with everything in the right order.
And I love to talk about our community. Taylor and I have been working really hard to build and nurture and facilitate our community spaces. We have two that are pretty active and engaging. The Soundtrap for Education Facebook group, it's a closed group of about 5,000 or 6,000 educators. Most of those folks teach music in some capacity, and they are generous and supportive and creative and welcome any opportunity to sort of share with with anyone. So if you haven't yet joined the Soundtrap for Education Facebook group, please do that. And then there's also our Soundtrap teaching community, which is not on the Facebook platform. It's very tightly connected with our support team. Our support team. And so if you raise an issue or a tech difficulty that you're having, we can link it directly to our support team and they can fix it pretty quickly. Some really good conversations happening there with teaching community, but also you're able to sort of take a look at some of the work that's being done for the non-education musicians and podcasters. And that's where we release our latest features and that kind of work. So please join both. And again, you'll have the link to this deck with all of these links very shortly.
So if you're seeking some inspiration or you're just needing sort of a touch point and want to hear some other cool ideas that people are doing, of course, today, we're excited to share those with you. But beyond today, if you're sort of also looking forward and dreaming big, these are some great places to pop in and sort of see based on content or type of project to learn more. So these are our Padlets, and they have a curated list of resources, but also examples, models, exemplar podcasts and things to check out. So really, really excited for you to hopefully discover something cool here and try it out in your space.
The first, so we also have a lot of use cases on our Edu journal. So a lot of these are actual teachers using Soundtrap in their classrooms or in other organizations. There's some really great ideas that you can use. I highly recommend taking a look at them. We have just this list and so many more.
And also on the podcasting side as well, we have different use cases where students as young as kindergarten all the way through high school students that have been sharing their voices with us. We all understand the importance of student voice. So hopefully these different articles and use cases can inspire you to create in your classroom.
All right, it's my turn to sort of talk about my favorite projects. And I am so excited to introduce our colleague who some of our sales executives don't tend to join in on these conversations, and maybe that's my fault for not inviting them. But we all do have our own sort of back channel, and our amazing colleague from San Francisco, Chad Reisfeld, shared a really great example recently. And so I would love to, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and introduce you to Chad and give Chad a moment to sort of talk briefly about this project. And we'll even share a clip of the audio for you too. But I'm going to stop sharing and say hi to Chad. So where are you, Chad? There you are. Chad, feel free to just sort of chat about this, how you came across it, why it was important to you, why you felt like it was worthy of sharing with us on our Slack channel. And then I'll play a quick clip of it.
Absolutely. Thank you for the introduction, Audrey. I appreciate it. And I apologize in advance. I've got a dog next to me that is whining, so there might be some background noise. But my name's Chad Reisfeld. I'm the West Coast Partnerships Executive at Soundtrap. So I support a lot of the schools and districts from Colorado to Hawaii who are implementing Soundtrap in their schools and districts. I see a couple of people that I know on the call. Vivian, I believe we've worked together in the past, so it's good to see your name again. And I appreciate being invited to this call. I think this is a really awesome kind of platform to just share and spotlight our Soundtrap champions. So this project that I shared with Audrey and the team, I thought was really special for a couple of reasons. And the first is just, it has to do with like, can be cliche at times to say in education, but like grit and tenacity. So this project came from Roseville City School District in the Sacramento area. And I'm working with them right now on kind of a pilot evaluation of Soundtrap. And when we think about like what grit and determination means, I think this teacher and this district exemplifies it more than any. So I was a teacher myself. I taught for a number of years in Oakland Unified School District. And one of the things that plagued us for so long was classroom sizes. And I remember getting my rosters at the beginning of the year and saying, I've got 30 kids in the class. How am I going to handle this? This teacher just blew that perspective out of the water for me. We started working together in November, and she said, hey, I'm the music teacher for Roseville. Because of distance learning, I've been assigned to teach music to 3,000 students this year. 3,000 students and one teacher. Like, I would think that her contract, her union contract, might be a violation there, but that's a different topic. So she was just at a loss of how do I provide support for 3,000 different students? And she and I worked together to come up with a way on what that could actually look like in Soundtrap. So we created this very complex system of using assignments to push out work to very, very large groups of students and learners across the district. And we did some trial and experimentation. And this was a project that came back and absolutely blew me away. So this is a music project where essentially this teacher took a vocal track from like an old nursery rhyme and sent it out to her students as an assignment. And then those students were given free rein to add in additional layers of music to make it their own, right? So you're going to hear a lot of composition in here. You're going to hear a lot of cultural relevance in here. But ultimately, what impressed me the most is that this project was made by a 4th grade student who has only been on Soundtrap for like 2 months. So Audrey, do you have it queued up on your end, or do you?
I sure do. Okay, unless you want to share.
No, go for it. So again, what you're going to hear created by a 4th grade student in Roseville, where they took a nursery rhyme and gave it like a modern spin. So go for it.
All right, here goes.
You're not sharing your screen anymore.
There once was a ship that put to sea, and the name of the ship was a Billy O.T. Flew hard about.
Sorry. That will work better if I share my screen, correct? Thanks. Share sound. Thanks for being patient.
I'll dip down, blow me, bully boys blow. Huh!
Bring us sugar and tea and come. One day when the tongue in his tongue, we'll take our leave and go.
She had been 2 weeks from shore when down on her a right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow.
Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and come. One day when the tongue in his tongue, we'll take our leave and go.
Before the boat had hit the water, the whale's tail came up and towed her. Ran to the side, harpooned and caught her when she dived down low.
Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and come. One day when the tongue in his tongue, we'll take our leave and go.
No line was cut, no whale was freed, and the captain's mind was not unfreed. But he belonged to the whaleman's creed. She took that ship in tow.
Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar
So
and
Audrey,
tea
you want to
and
drop the volume a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Or pause it. That's cool. But I mean, there's another 1 or 2 minutes left on this song. But again, like when we think about the context, one, of this project, and then two, what this student was able to create, it's really mind blowing. I mean, there's one, the kind of the surface level of being able to add in all of these different tracks to kind of put a modern spin on it. But then when you think about the subtleties here, like if you listen to how they mixed it and mastered it, and even like the bass lines that line up with the vocal tracks in the melodies, just was, I was speechless that this was made by such a young student. So that one I think is really cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being my special guest, Chad, and for being, I think, so remarkable in thinking that way and celebrating student work in this way and sharing it with us, and also the sort of the grit and tenacity that you put into helping this teacher. That can't be understated. So amazing. Thank you so much for that. And let's go back to my slides here, please. And hello, go away. And the other piece I just wanted to share was some KQED youth media challenges, because I feel like I've taken sort of up my time. I just will leave you this link to look into. It's really remarkable. Tons of step-by-step processes for sort of using audio recording and storytelling with students. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Awesome. And so Audrey, you can actually just keep it up. I think it'll be easiest to play from there.
Yeah.
So what I was wanting to do today is trying to give everyone a little glimpse at this summit that we just finished 2 weeks ago. And so the summit was a week-long asynchronous event in which some of our most outstanding teachers started our first round of what we call the producer program. So these are the teachers that have just really stood out and are making great things happen for their students and students around the world in Soundtrap. So each one of them have a session, and each one of those sessions has PDF notes as well as a super, super cool sketch note. If you've ever seen a sketch note or like an RSA animate video, we had an artist kind of summarize all their ideas into one sheet and have graphics and all this cool stuff. And you can get an hour of professional development credit for watching that session. So all of that is on our Summit site, which we have a link for in the next slide, and we'll send that out to anyone that would like that. There was also one other session, which was perhaps my favorite. Jarrett Ahmed Shiel was our keynote speaker for the summit, and he had some amazing things to say and really reminded me about why we do this and what's happening in education and the possibilities. So what you're going to see right here, this video is just like a 1-minute little collection of snippets from his keynote to hopefully pique your interest. And then if you would like to check out the rest of them, we'll send you that link. So let's watch this video real quick.
How we create these spaces and places, it has to be you ask and you invite. You encourage people to be part, and then you don't write where they can fill in the blank. However they are able to engage and participate instead of telling people where they can be. Once you've shown them, if they come up with something innovative and revolutionary that you couldn't imagine, be quiet. Shh. Be quiet, because they might be teaching you something you didn't know. Some of the things that teachers could do automatically, any music teacher could do, is ask students what kind of music they would like to analyze. Super easy. Collaborative work is a big hallmark of all of this democratic participation and engagement. So that might mean opening up your music ed space to watch this, to more than just notes, more than just timbres and sonorities. Be brave. Create a brave space.
You're muted. You're muted.
Thanks. That first link right there is where you can go for all of the things, all the sessions, including the summit sessions that we did in the fall of 2020 with 10 or 11 other amazing speakers. And they're all based on the same theme. So the producer sessions this spring were based on the themes and the sessions from last fall. So there's tons and tons of great stuff there. All the videos, PDF notes, links, certificates, all that stuff is there. You also can check it out by going to our Education Today podcast. So it's just the same sessions, but in audio format. So if you have your Spotify flow, you like to listen to your podcasts on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or anything else, you can check that out on our podcast called Education Today. Over to you, Jess.
Thanks, Taylor. So I'm actually going to hand it off to Raphael in a second. But before I do, I want to just give a little context. So something I've been thinking a lot about, and I've been working with teachers, is how to use Soundtrap, A, for students' creativity, just like, if they're wanting to feel creative or want to do a fun project with their friends, but also B, sort of moving into that end of year zone, and how do we create sort of that opportunity for students to showcase their knowledge in different ways. So not just necessarily, completing a test or doing a paper, but how am I able to be communicating my work and my knowledge in a different way? So of course, in more traditional spaces, that feedback comes from your teacher and usually in the form of a grade. And so of course, like you can create an assignment or you can do something in Soundtrap or in any tool where you have an assignment and you have a rubric and students follow that and they get a letter grade. That's certainly one evaluative process. The other we've been talking a lot about is this idea about collaboration. And so what that looks like, not only teacher feedback in the studio on the sidebar where, a teacher can share a quick note and say, hey, I really love what you're doing here. And I can't wait for you to explore this, this, and this. So that's really fantastic. But then also how students are working together to give that feedback. And sometimes even those feedback stems, right? Like things that students can start the language or what that conversation can look like. But we also have opportunities to give feedback. And there's one way that I had not thought of at all. So Raphael actually popped into my office hours last week and we ended up having a really great discussion. So I'm going to give you two sort of creative ways for feedback. I'll share one, and then I'm going to hand it over to Raphael and maybe he can give a little bit of an insight and sort of share his screen and sort of teach you the way he taught me last week. So the first thing, Audrey, if you can go to the next one, is just this idea of allowing students to create a portfolio within Soundtrap. So having a folder or something that they work throughout the year. So it's not one single test or one single podcast, but it's something that they're growing and showing over time so that they can show growth and improvement. So of course, that could be something like a final project, like something that they work on with multiple, rounds of feedback, but also the way to talk about their work. So even creating a podcast, if they're doing a 2-minute music piece, maybe they're also then asked to create a 2-minute podcast or an audio recording to talk about the process, talk about the work, talk about their biggest pain points, have that conversation not only with themselves for the metacognition and the processing, but then also for their teacher and their class to understand that vision and that process and how it came to life for them. So that's one thing we've been sharing and giving it as, sort of a structural example. You can just put a folder in Soundtrap. You can put a folder on your dashboard and students can own that and sort of make that. But Raphael, I would love if you sort of show, I tried to give a vision of sort of what it looks like, of where you're headed. And so something that Raphael does is very accessible, very visual in the studio to give real-time feedback. So I'm going to hand it over to you if you don't mind to share.
Hi, guys. Hi, Jess. Thank you for the inviting.
Of course.
So here I am again to show you some of my solutions. And I have one simple solution that I use the colors. I have a color systems of communication. So I just use the Soundtrap tracks colors to communicate with my singers. I work with choirs, and the singers must have I don't know the word. They need to know if they are doing the right thing. Can you see my
yes,
looks good.
My screen?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Here's the studio that I worked today with them. So here's some feedback colors for them. So I use these colors here to give them my feedback. So the up colors are are my colors, and the down colors are the singer's colors. So they use two colors. They use the orange one and the yellow one. They use orange when they are satisfied with their work, and they use yellow when they are not. It's just I just use these colors. I don't have any knowledge about psychology and colors. It was just my ideas of colors. So there's not the. It can be any colors, and my colors are just the red and the blue one. When it's blue, it's because it's okay, it's good. When it's red, it's because it's bad, it's not good. And when it's, I don't know this color in English, we call this in Brazil wine color. It's that color here. I don't know how do you say this color here.
Yeah, like wine or cranberry. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wine. When it's wine, it's because there is a technology problem, some noises or a dog barking, something like this. It's not a musical problem. It's a noisy problem. So it's just with the record color problem. So here's a visual thing that I can see who is okay. So here these tracks are good. These tracks are we have one track for each singer. So the singer which is blue, it's okay, that's good. Which is red, it's not okay. Which is wine, it's okay musically thinking about, but it's not good with the record quality. So here's a good here's all good studio. Now everybody's blue, so this music is ready to present. And only the soloist is not I didn't saw, so it's orange because she is okay with her track, but I didn't hear it yet. So this is a this project is the choir is prepared, so I can show. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Oh yeah. So I don't know how is the soloist, but that's okay. Can you hear?
Yep, sounds good.
So I forgot one color. This color, it's the purple one is the guidelines. So here's the solo guidelines. It's the example that she must do alike. So, and here's the soprano guideline and alto guideline and the man's guidelines. So it's a way that I organize the voices of the choir here. So there are always a guideline that I don't know the words, that you can see where is each voice here. So that's the thing. Thank you.
Wow. That was amazing. And we're all in the background talking about Sister Act too, Raphael. So, all right, back to the presentation. Unless anybody has any questions or comments or feedback for Raphael really quickly. Okay, here we go.
Love that. It sounded great.
So good.
I think one of the great things about it is what you showed at the very end there, Raphael, where you had those guide tracks, because that it seems like a solution for your group, which happens to be towards the earlier side in their training, right? Like it'd be one thing if you could just give them a piece of sheet music and say, okay, go sing this. That would be one thing, but it seems like a solution for you with your students is give them the audio example and have them sing along to that. So I think that's great.
Yeah, they use the audio example and the sheet music. They use both.
Okay, great. But then, so they always have that reference in their ear, I guess.
Yeah, thank you.
So for me, I was just actually talking to Audrey before this, trying to figure out which type of projects to share. And as I was going through the different projects that I've seen teachers create, one stood out to me, and then it registered to me that I actually worked with this teacher back in December on this. So the teacher is Liz Lee. She's a teacher in Washington State. She teaches Japanese and culture at her school, at a middle school and at a high school. And so she saw that in her classroom that one, students wanted to learn more about the culture, Japanese culture, but two, they were getting very fatigued from looking at Zoom and just stress. So she decided to allow her students to actually start to create podcasts around Japanese culture. And she saw that there were times where students wanted to collaborate with one another to practice language and to practice, dialogue back and forth. So she actually used the collaboration feature within Soundtrap to get her students to do that. One problem that she ran into was that there were two different levels of students learning the language, but with some appropriate adjustments and talking with another teacher at her school, they figured out a way to make it really successful and to be able to scale it to those students that were beginning and more advanced students. I want to actually show an example of a podcast that she created. So Audrey, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Share sound. All right. Let's see. Give me a moment. Let's see. Well, actually, I can share that in the chat because this sounds like it's not going to allow me to share it right now. I apologize for that. But after I get done, I'll make sure to share that in the chat. Another project that I wanted to share, Audrey, with everyone is a project that I created with the help of teammates called Our Story, Our Time. And I think that it's just so important for students and teachers to share music and to share podcasts and narratives around their culture and their identity. So I will actually share that link out as well. And it gives you step-by-step on different topics that you can create music and podcasts around. So for this month, April, I'm already thinking, and it's one of the focus areas on there, but for April, it's National Poetry Month. So just think of the ways that, your students can create poetry, spoken word. I'm even thinking about ways that we can incorporate music on how, you can have one student to give a poem, another student can audio engineer it within Soundtrack. So really trying to bridge those two together. If you have any additional questions around that, feel free to email me, but I will share that link out so that you can see the overview of everything in that project. And also one more thing I wanted to share, we have a teacher that I've actually been working with, Vivian is in the room. We actually started, communicating with each other last fall, and she's always just sharing some really innovative projects with me. And I would love if Vivian could just share, her process of how, she's able to create with her students in her class.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. Those very kind words. So just a little bit about my background with the students that I have. The way that our scheduling worked at my middle school this year is that I have, in the same classroom, I have students who have been with me for band for 3 to 5 years and have a really good, solid foundation in music theory and also just listening and just music concepts in general. And I also have students who are thrown into my classes that have zero interest in music, zero experience, and really wanted to be somewhere else. So key for me has been accessibility. How do I make music accessible to these students who are at different levels? And they're also academically at very different levels. I have students who could function at a college level. I have students who are barely functioning at first and second grade level, even though they're in 8th grade. So I've been doing a mixture of using the podcast feature for social emotional learning and also combining like, how do I enhance their exposure to music? And one of the main ways I've been doing that is through music form. So it's nice, it's a good segue here that you talked about poetry, because I want to share my poetry project and just a little bit about it. And I can also share you a folder. I have a whole bunch of links to, if you choose to do poetry this month. What I did is I wanted to also include strophic form for music, so they would learn to go back and forth between verse and chorus. But I also wanted that inspiration from poetry slam. But I also know that I have a lot of students who are apprehensive about their writing skills. So what I did is I started out and I just said, well, let's look at songs, okay? Let's take some different songs and let's just parse it down to verse and chorus. Get rid of intro, get rid of closing. Let's just edit this so it's more like a poetry flow kind of format. And I exposed them to a whole bunch of poems, of course, and songs. I had to include Tupac Shakur, of course. And how can we adjust some of these to make it fit the strophic form format? And I gave them the opportunity either choose one of the examples that I provided or to write their own poetry or search on their own. And I actually had a student pick out a Fall Out Boy song. And let me see, I'm sorry, I've been switching computers, so I have to re-pull this up. But what I really was going for with them is that I want you to be expressive, like find a way that you can find your voice, use the strophic form, record your voice, and then enhance it with music. And I want to see that you understand the going back and forth between verse and chorus. So it's loading, and then I'll do a share screen. And what I love about this particular student is that it's very simple the way she did it. She did it in very basic, but just the attitude that she spoke with was really great. So here is, I'll do share screen, and let me do share sound so it's better for you. So this is her assignment, and you could see that she starts, I had them label it. So she has verse, chorus, and then you could see that something's kind of lined up with the verse and other loops lined up with the chorus, and here it is.
Stuck in the jet wash, a bad trip I couldn't get off. Maybe I bit off more than I could chew, overhead of the aqua blue. Fall to your knees, bring on the rapture. Blessed be the boy's time, can't capture. On film or between the sheets, I always fall from your window to the pitch black streets. And with the black banners raised, as the crooked smiles fade, former heroes who quit too late, who just want to fill up the trophy case again. And in the end, I'll do it all again. I think you're my best friend. Don't you know that the kids aren't all right? I'll be yours when it rains, it pours. Stay thirsty like before. Don't you know that the kids aren't all right?
And who would have thought that Fall Out Boy would sound like that, you know? So it was really cool to just like hear this complete change. And I'll share in the chat, I have my poetry project folder, I'll drop in there, and I did do a Google Doc with a bunch of like poetry links that I used. So feel free to check those out. And then I'll share my gigantic folder of Soundtrap, which is like totally crazy. Other projects of mine that I really love doing was theme and variations. And I pulled in Charles Ives and taught them how to do kind of like song mapping with format. Also, my Clash to Resolve is really a binary form project, because my binary form just fell flat on its face and most of them didn't understand it. Like switching from A to B, they didn't get it. So I had to make it super dramatic, and it was perfect for Halloween time. So I'll share both of those links with you guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you so much.
So good. All right, Serena, to round it off. You ready, Serena, for me to share my screen?
Yeah, actually, I think I can share mine.
Okay, cool.
Just time. I had two, but I'm only going to do one, and it's going to be more interactive. So you might want to open up a new tab in your computer or get your phone out. So this is a resource that I shared on our Facebook page. It's a Kahoot for students, and you can share it with, you can take the link and use it with your students. And we're going to play just a little bit of it. So if you go to kahoot.it, and type in this game pin, it'll let you type in like a username, and we'll wait for some of the players. Kahoot.it. You can do that on your phone. Yep, game pin. Thank you, Jess. Awesome. We got one person. I have the filter on, so I could have changed that, but we got 2, 3, 4. Yes. 5. Very cool.
I was going to spin again. I'm really not happy with my name, but I'm gonna go with it.
Totally. Awesome.
I love that I'm Brave Mouse. I don't know if it's related to Danger Mouse, but I'll take it.
Awesome.
I love a cape. I love a cape.
Is everyone who wants to be in? Okay, I'm gonna press start. If I hear a wait, well, we can wait. All right, so question 1. I'll read them out too. So question 1, Soundtrap allows you to create and select all that apply. So is it original music, music remixes, podcasts, or audio-based stories? It only lets you select one, sorry.
Serena, I've only got like shapes and colors on my screen. Is there?
Oh, okay. I'll read out the shapes and colors.
So for those of you who haven't done it before, you actually have to do 2 screens next to each other. Yeah. So you could see the Zoom screen and then see your own individual one.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah, I'll also read them out. So triangle is a triangle, red triangle, orange original music, blue diamond music remixes, yellow circle podcasts, or square green audio-based stories. Eight more seconds. Awesome. All of them worked, so we all get points. Woo! All right. True or false? Soundtrap can be used in any classroom. Woo, true. So yeah, any classroom, social studies, English, science. All right, true. Soundtrap can be accessed from any device. Blue is true, red is false. We got true. All right, Winged Deer has the highest answer.
That's me.
Hey, the feature that includes short musical sounds and sound effects is the red software instruments, blue collaboration, yellow loops tab, or green MIDI. So short musical sounds and sound effects. Yay, loops tab. Awesome, kind of. Ooh, green chicken's on the board. All right, there is no difference between the music template and the podcast template. True or false? Blue is true, red is false. There is no difference at all between the music template and the podcast template. False. The time ruler is an easy difference. All right, I think this will be our last question. Kind of up there. Come on, Winged Deer, you can do this. All right, the best way to introduce yourself to Soundtrap for the first time is with red, MIDI transcriptions on the piano roll, blue, multi-track recording, yellow, EQ, or green, loops. Yay, loops. Awesome. So I think I'm going to end the game. There are 10 questions if you want to use it with your students, so it takes up some time. But we got third place, Excited Gecko. second place, winged deer, and first place. Kind of. Who's kind of?
Oh, all right.
Yay, good job, everyone.
Congratulations.
Good job. Awesome. So yeah, feel free to use that with your students. It's super fun. Again, if there's technological difficulties, I find that to be like an easy thing to do. And the last thing, I wanted to give space to Elizabeth Carney. She reached out to me on LinkedIn and said she had an awesome science-ish project. So I wanted to give her time to share.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Elizabeth Carney and I teach general music to grades 1 through 4. I work at an independent school in northern New Jersey, and we are full-time in person every day, except that we can't sing or play any instruments with air or touch anything that anybody else touched. So in a very lucky, I was searching the web for a software that I could use with my students. I should mention that my bachelor's degree is in music technology, so I didn't expect to be teaching, but it's awesome that I get to put the two things together. I reached out to my technology department and I said, hey, there's this program, Soundtrap. Is it COPA compliant? Can I use it? Next year, I hope I have the funds for it. And they said, hey, we have 75 licenses that we bought last year for podcasting. Nobody's using them at the moment. They're all yours. And it was like the best day of my life. So that was awesome. Is it okay if I share my screen? I just put some, okay.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Make sure I share my sound. Okay, cool. All right, so I mostly said all of these already. Our grades 1 and 2 have iPads in the classroom that they use every day, and our grades 3 and 4 have Chromebooks, so this was perfect that it would work for everyone. Our science class is a related arts person, so they are just like art and music. They travel from class to class, and they handle the science for the whole lower school. She has every year a Biome Animal project that is school-wide, and every student is assigned an animal. And so each related art is to tie in with that. So for example, in phys ed, they're making yoga poses that involve their animal. In art, they're doing a collage with their animal. And so I was thinking, what could we do for music? Just as a side note, our learning management program is Seesaw, and our students that are home, there's probably 2 or 3 students that are always on Zoom in each class, but then that can change from day to day. So we use Zoom in our school. So we did a week long, the 3rd and 4th graders had a week of learning Soundtrap before they went ahead to go with their project. So on the first day, I had them use the sample song just to mess around with it and kind of just learn on their own. I didn't do a lot of teaching that day. I let them teach themselves, and they really had a lot of fun with that. On day 2, I had them make their own beat in the beat maker. Day 3, I just wrote out the keyboard letters for Twinkle Little Star. They played it in and then sort of remixed it on their own. Had a lot of fun with that. On day 4, I wanted to show them how Soundtrap could do podcasting, so I had them do a mini podcast. I think I have an example of that here. We kept it super short. It was like 20 seconds long, and it was about your morning routine. And I believe that this is Henry, and he found the toothbrushing sound effect. So I'm just going to play that for you really quick.
Hi, it's Henry. Welcome to my morning routine. This morning I woke up and went to go get breakfast. After then, I brushed my teeth and washed my face. Then I hopped in the car and went to school. Have a nice day.
Yeah, so it was kind of short, but I just wanted to get them to get their feet wet and do something really fun where they could add sound effects. So that was the day 4. And then it should say day 5, but we did remix some classical tunes. On our learning management software, I loaded up 5 familiar songs that they would have maybe heard before somewhere. They listened to all 5, chose one that they liked, and I taught them how to download that and load that up into Soundtrap, and then they remixed that. That was awesome. So then it was time to do the Biome Animal project. The science teacher again chose their animal. I found their sound clip online and put it into Soundtrap. That was a little tricky because I couldn't do the assignments like I normally would, where they would all go into one folder. I had to create the song myself, load the clip in, and then make myself a collaborator. I had to pretend to be them. It was a little bit of a process, but in the end, they all went into the correct folder and it all worked out. We actually, I should stop and mention that the only way that I could do this is having, at my school, we have a technology integration specialist, Brendan Flanagan. He couldn't be on the call today, but we co-taught. So I was so fortunate to have him in almost every class right there with me. So when the hands go up, the two of us could go around the room. He could handle a lot of the technology questions. I could handle more of the music questions. It was perfect. So I was only going to do 3rd and 4th grade, but at the end of those 2 weeks, I have them for a week at a time. He said, I really think that you could do this in the 2nd grade. So then we did it in 2nd grade and it was awesome. On the iPads, we used the app. And then he said, what would you think about trying it in 1st grade? And we did. And so I have to say a huge thank you to him for pushing me to try that. It's been awesome. So let's see, the younger students definitely needed more parameters because on the first day they already had like 25 tracks and I had to be like, guys, we're going to take that down a little bit. Or their song was like 35 minutes long. So that was another thing. But, we helped them with that and it all worked out. They all made a voice introduction where they said, hi, my name is, their first name, what their animal was called, and then maybe a quick reason why they made some of the choices that they did in their song. And then the science teacher, Mrs. Prosen, is going to upload everything onto a thing link, which is kind of like a visual way. She's doing the zoo with the animals. And then when parents click on it, they'll see the artwork, the yoga pose, they'll be able to hear the song and sound trap. So that'll be the final project. So I just wanted to kind of give a final, just an example of what the 1st grade project looked like versus the 4th grade project. You can already see just by looking at the visual that the 1st graders were, they did their voice. I'll play it for you in a minute, but they did their voice. And then a lot of their other things are very stacked up and they chose a loop and they made it, I told them not to make it too long. So they tried to stay in the 30s there and they learned how to fade in and out. But other than that, it was pretty square looking. But then by the time we got up to 4th grade, they made a lot of choices. They went in and out of things. They chopped up their animal sound and put it in throughout the project. So this is the 1st grade project.
Okay, hi, I'm Isabella, and my animal is the toucan, and I gave the toucan nice music because the toucan has a nice squeak.
So I'm going to pause that there. Nothing really changes for the end of the song, but there was a lot of cool choices she made for the toucan. And then let's see if I can play grade for the opossum.
Hello, my name is Scott and my biome animal is the opossum. Be sure to listen for its growl and the trees where my animal lives.
So I'm going to just pause that there just to save some time, but I was really impressed with Scott's work. I'm constantly now, even after the project is basically over, I still get invites like at all times of the night from kids at home that are just creating their own projects. I absolutely love that. And We switched over now. We're playing recorders, but just today there were students who had extra time that had finished all the work. So I gave them a challenge to play one of their recorder songs into SoundChat, which they still have on their device, and then to remix that with their, and it helped me be able to work with the kids who needed more time and have a fun activity for the kids who had already finished. So I'm just really, really glad that we have it in our school. Thank you for letting me share.
I want to hit
amazing.
again.
So good.
That was so good.
Oh my gosh, Elizabeth, that was so awesome. Serena, gold star for sharing Elizabeth with us. Thank you so much. I want to honor everyone's time. There was so much sharing, so much excitement, so much joy today. We will make certain that we rework the recording and clip out some of the beginning part where it was just some of us just getting to know each other in the beginning, and share that out with everyone that registered, share it back out with you, and we'll try to get the invitation to the May Heart to Heart. Please keep the lines of communication open with us if you would like to share, if you would like to be one of our special guests. I know that we all would totally welcome that. For those of you that are new to the call, and Chad, if you're still on, thanks for being here. Leandro is our brand new sales executive. He's here also. Thank you for joining. I hope you found this super valuable.
Oh my God, it's amazing. Thank you for inviting me. I was like, what is this on my calendar? And then I walked into like such a glorious like space. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And it happens monthly. So I'll do a better job and make sure I keep inviting you. So everyone, have a great rest of your Tuesday and stay in touch with us. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
See you next month. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 Very, very inspiring. Bye.